The truth is that like the fastest way to go from 10 users to 1,000 users is to figure out the fastest way to go from 10 users to 100 users, and then to
Mm.
figure out the fastest way to go from 100 users to 200 users. When I live in Thailand, like not only am I like the happiest and just my best self, but
Yeah.
also right now it's, I think I spend like 2% of my income on rent, right? So
That's
like just like the,
incredible.
the amount of money that we can save is insane. So we will move back to the UK, or
Yeah.
well, yeah, to the UK or somewhere in Europe. We will do that at some point, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like I finally make enough money that I can live comfortably, like in London if we wanted to live in London, but I would
Yeah.
just feel like I was setting my money on fire. And it's like why? Like why go spend all of that money when I enjoy my life way more like out here?
That's such a good point. I live in Sydney, Australia. It's actually a very
Okay.
expensive city, and
Yeah, I've heard.
God, it's like I have family here, right? So if it wasn't for
Mhm.
family, like I would move to like I don't know, say Queensland, which is like housing in Australia is so expensive. We recently bought a place, and
Yeah.
and the market's just taken off. Like it's nuts. And like we didn't buy in a very expensive part of Sydney either. Like
Mm,
it's like a semi, like a yeah. It's like we're not right in the. I mean, it's still quite accessible to the city, but it's not like right in the heart of the city or anything like that. The price is just
yeah.
like triple. So but even without that, it's still very expensive. And
Yeah.
it's like, I guess my take on it is, if you don't need that, take advantage of
Yeah.
it. Like where
Yeah.
you live, Thailand, I mean, it's a beautiful place, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like you're living in a tourist location and you're saving a ton. So
Yeah.
that's incredible. Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, like I don't know. I feel like yeah, if you're on like Twitter and kind of like the Twitter sphere that we're in, and so many of my friends are nomads and everything, outside of that, I don't know. I feel like some of my friends on Facebook maybe think that I'm like showing off or bragging or like all that, and I'm just like, like if you guys could do this, you would. And like the whole thing is that there are totally great reasons to stay wherever you are. If you have family, like that makes perfect sense, right? And like I have family back in the US, but the truth is that like I didn't see them all that much. Even like, I mean, my parents always joke that they spend more quality time with me than they do with my sister. And my sister lives an hour north of them, and I live on the other side of the world, right? But the whole thing is that she doesn't come back home all that much. And like, we're all close. Like we jump on Zoom calls all the time and stuff, but
Yeah.
she's just living her own life. So they don't actually see each other that much. Whereas then, like,
Yeah.
I come back, 1 month a year, but like I'm like there with them for a month. I'm completely present with them. And it's not like my sister who, like, at no fault of her own, she comes down and she has like 2 hours that she can have dinner with them. And then she like goes back up and stuff. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. We all find ourselves in our own like life situations. And, like everyone's born with different sort of privileges, different sort of like drawbacks and all of that stuff. And it's about
Yeah.
living like your best life, and that best life is going to be different for everyone. So I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, 100%. It's case by case. By the way,
Yeah,
Amar, am I pronouncing your name correct? Is it Amar?
yeah, yeah.
What background is that from?
My dad is my dad is Indian, Bengali. So
Ah,
he
okay.
grew up in Calcutta, and then my mom's American, or like half American, half Puerto Rican. So yeah, Amar means, it means immortal in Bengali, and then to love in Spanish. That's how they like arrived at that like name, which is like
Ah,
pretty
lovely.
cool. I gotta say, I'm pretty proud of my parents for that one. I'm like, that's a cool name. They were initially gonna name me Vladimir.
Oh,
I have
really?
yeah, I
Wow.
have no idea why. I was like, what on earth is wrong? Everyone in our family gives them crap for it. Like, my aunts and uncles, like my sister, everyone is just like, what on earth were you thinking with that? Like,
Well, my parents, they made things tricky. So my name is Farzan, my brother's Faraz, my sister's Farnaz, and my dad is Faribor. So it's like, God, like, it's so with my kids, I'm like, let's give them names that are one, easy to pronounce. My background's
yeah,
Iranian. So I was born
Iranian.
in
Okay,
Iran.
I was about to ask. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
my son is Eli, and we just had a daughter actually. Sunday she was
Uh,
born. Um,
oh wow! Congrats. That's
Thanks, man.
amazing.
Thanks. Yeah. So we gave them slightly easier names than ours.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean it actually matters. I mean, it's actually like a big a big thing that I think a lot of parents kind of overlook. But I mean, if someone's not comfortable pronouncing your name, it makes you like harder to talk about, to like get like referrals for friends to talk about you, right? Like
Yeah.
all of that stuff. And it's the exact same thing with company names. Like I see all sorts of brands where I'm like, I'm reading your company, but I don't know how to pronounce it. There's 6 different ways this could be pronounced, and then you hear it and you're like, oh, that's how it's pronounced. It's like, how are you ever going to get word of mouth if people don't know how to pronounce your name, right? Or like I see people that they're like, oh, like you know I run lolly with 26 L's. It's like, if you have to say with 26 L's, you probably misnamed your company, like.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking about Kaddim actually, because I was thinking like for example, ZenMade, right? It's kind of like, ooh, like the name talks about what the product is.
Yeah,
Kaddim doesn't at this stage, but again, that's like the least of my worries. It's
yeah,
I think first I've got to work on other higher priority problems, and you can always
yeah,
if it
exactly,
becomes an issue. It's
exactly.
actually probably not that difficult a name to remember and pronounce. But I don't know. Is that how
Yeah.
you thought about it when you first read it? How did you pronounce it?
I would have
Figure
thought
it out.
Kaddim. Kaddim, I think, is how I would pronounce that. How'd you say?
Yeah,
Kadam?
yeah. You know what? It's literally the word. Yeah, Kaddim, Kadam. It's close enough. The
Yeah.
reason I named it that is because the
Yeah.
tool is supposed to be, it's like an assistant to. In this case, it's a document collection platform, and
Okay.
I've honed in on one particular niche, and that's with mortgage and finance brokers, and
Okay.
that's just because I knew that there was a problem in that sector. And
Yeah.
the name I decided to give it was that in Arabic, not that I speak Arabic, I speak Farsi, but we actually have the same word, khadam, which means to be of service, servant. So I was like, it was kind
Okay.
of meaningful for me, and I didn't want to like vacillate on a name rather than
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
get the business up
Makes
and running.
sense.
So,
Makes sense. Cool.
but yeah, look, thanks firstly for getting back to me. I appreciate it. I know Twitter is a pretty noisy space, and I'm really glad you sort of suggested to have a chat, because one thing I was thinking of doing, I said, you know what, a lot of interesting people out there. I'm going to start
Hmm.
approaching them and say, hey, let's jump on a call, because one,
Yep.
I can learn a lot. Like for example,
Hmm.
ZenMate, my understanding is it's well progressed,
Yeah.
like to in terms of like you've been working. I went on LinkedIn, and you've been on it for about 8 years, right? You've been working on
Yep.
the company.
Yep.
Uh,
Starting year 8. Yep.
yeah. So for me, Kadam is about a year and a half in.
Okay.
The way I started was really like I saw a problem myself when I went to apply for a mortgage. I don't know if you've ever dealt with a mortgage broker or anything
I
like that.
haven't. No.
Yeah, but in Australia, I think UK, US, very similar concept. Like you have to
Mm.
provide like documentation, which then the broker needs to sort of like look through and then pass a copy on to the lenders, usually your big banks and whatnot. And
Yeah.
the process is really like old school, like through email, and then like you have these email threads, and it gets really messy. And when I went through it, my broker asked me for like really sensitive data by email. I just wasn't comfortable.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, a good friend of mine had experienced the same thing. He's like, look, I was working on an e-commerce site at the time, and he said, you should go and work on this. Like there's an
Hmm.
opportunity, because I was looking at building my own product. And he said, and really like I started off was like, okay, well, let's build something very, very basic, validate the demand. And the thing is, there are some players out there, so it wasn't completely a new space, but I just didn't feel
Yep.
like there was a lot happening. And yeah, anyway, long story short, got some traction. I've got I had some early users, and it
Okay.
wasn't as smooth as I make it out to be. Right, it
Yeah.
started off
Yeah.
with being sort of like, yeah, I'd be interested in that if you built that, or like this
Yeah.
problem is a problem for me, and sort of like problem
Yeah.
discovery. And then I built it, and they're very busy people, so it took them some time. But long story short, through some referrals and whatnot, I've got like a handful of early users, right, like about 10
Okay.
users,
Cool.
and
Okay.
now I'm
Nice.
at where I need to like grow it, and that's where I'm
Yeah.
focusing at. So it's a really exciting time, but at the same time, I've got a full-time job as well. So it's a really
Okay.
tough, because yeah, I don't have enough. So I'm literally just getting a lot of these users off their trial period onto
Okay.
paid plans. I'm just building the billing capability right now. But
Okay.
once that's done, some revenue will come through, and then I've got to start focusing on acquiring more users. So when I saw what you had, I thought, okay, this is interesting, because I
Mm-hmm.
get these brokers reaching out, they're sort of saying, hey, like one of the key features in Kaddim is templates, right? So you
Okay.
can build a set of templates of documents that you'd request in this scenario, in this scenario, in that scenario.
Okay.
And some people would be like, I haven't had time to set up my templates. I'm like, okay, let me set them up. Or some of them, I've referred them to other brokers who have it and they're willing to share it with them, and I copy it over for them. And I thought, you know what, they could be learning a lot from each other, like the way they're using
Mm-hmm.
Kaddim. One
Yep.
business is really using it for a lot of client engagement. Others are using it only at one particular stage. And I thought, it'd be good if I kind of bring them together. I saw a post that you made. It was like a repost of someone else who was a repost of someone else about communities, like, just create like a community Slack channel or a WhatsApp channel.
Yeah.
And I think you were saying
Oh
with
yeah.
Zen.
Freedoms. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I need to start focusing on some of those stuff. And then I thought, you know what, let me learn what others are doing so I can sort of
Yeah.
leverage these things. I mean, I've actually engaged with someone in the industry, like in the fintech industry, who's got a lot of contacts. So we're looking at, how we could potentially grow Kaddim. But outside of that, I want to experiment with a lot of different things as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, long story short,
Okay.
that's how I got interested in what you posted.
Like it sounds like you're on a very similar path to what we were on, just in the fact that it's similar resources, it's a similar amount of time, you don't have funding and everything. So yeah, so one thing to just to keep in mind when you're looking at people on Twitter is the whole thing of what, not like what got you there or what got you here won't get you there. It's not that, but it's like if you want to get into really good shape, for example, you don't go to the biggest dude in the gym and do what the biggest dude in the gym. You don't follow his workout. You find out what the workouts were that got him there in the first place when he was out of shape and got him started on that journey, right? And so, I think that when we had initially connected, it was because I was posting about the MADE Summit and about the event that we did. So I don't recommend that for you, actually, because it is a massive, massive project to undertake. And the reason that it was successful for us was because a lot of different factors, but the main thing was that we had already been showing up in the industry for years. We had a big audience to bring to the table. We had existing relationships with all of the speakers. And so for us, it was a big combination of things that came together that made it the right thing for us to do at the right time. And so that was when we were looking at how do we go from 500 customers to 1,000 customers. But that's a very different question than how do you go from your first 10 users to your next, to 20 users or to 50 users or to 100 users. At the same time, it's also good. Yeah, it's good to be aware of kind of where you want to get to and stuff, and understanding why that stuff works. But the reason I was actually going to say that is because bringing your users together is one way to kind of get that started. So what we initially did was we launched our Facebook group, and I tried to do that as a paid membership site for $19 a month. And we were just looking at kind of how do we monetize this? Would people pay for a community or whatever? And what's funny is that we launched to a list of, I think, 1,000 people. And we got 3 people that signed up for $19. And after a couple of weeks, I was like, this is not working. We're not going to charge for this. I'm not going to get paid $60 a month. It wasn't even going into my pocket, right? I was we're not going to collect $60 a month when there was this little interest in this. And so what we did is we refunded everyone their money.
Yeah.
And then re-promoted it as a completely free group and as a free offer. And so a lot of things in ZenMade, we lucked into it, but you do have to kind of have that enough kind of momentum and enough people to make that valuable. But I would probably be looking at, if you're trying to go from, let's say, 10 to 50 or 10 to 100, you probably want to be looking at cold email, cold calling, or really whatever brought you these early users. Yeah, well, I guess actually really the first thing is how did you find your initial 10? What worked for you to start talking to them and to get in front of them? How did you do that?
Yeah, really, really good question. And as you mentioned cold emails, it made me think he's spot on, because that's what I did. What I did was
Yeah.
I actually had reached out to my own broker and I said, hey, would you be interested? He said yes, but he wasn't a business owner, right? He was an employee, and they were using another tool. And then the founder seemed really eager, but then, just
Yeah.
because someone says something, they don't do it. So that didn't happen. There was a couple of people, and I thought, okay, right now I need to actually like open up the funnel. So I went and looked up the list of Australian mortgage brokers who'd won awards, and I emailed them, cold emailed them, and I said,
Okay.
look, I'm building a product for your industry. I'd love your advice. I didn't try to pitch it as me
Yeah.
selling anything.
Yeah.
As there's a funnel, some responded, some said, let's jump on a call, some spoke with me, and out of them, a few of them said, hey, this is something I'm actually looking for. So why don't you let me know once you've built this? And then, down the track, a few months down the track, we got a working version. They started using it. I had the first 3. Then I asked for referrals from 2 of them. One of them didn't end up sticking. Like, I'm still trying to get him. He's a partner, and he hasn't fully used the product well. 2 of
Yeah.
them were using. One said, give me a little bit more time. She's a little bit more particular, and she's using it. She's probably my power user, actually. She's given me a testimonial on that, which is great. The other one said, sure. And she emailed 40 people. Out of them, I had webinars with 10 of them. And out of those, a handful of them started using it. And now sitting at around 8 to 10 active users who are using the platform almost every day.
So essentially what I would do is I would take what's already working for you and I would just do more of that. Like the whole thing is, particularly in technology and in like the kind of like indie hackers, I guess, sort of like thing, everyone seems to be focused on automation and scale. And the truth is that like the fastest way to go from 10 users to 1,000 users is to figure out the fastest way to go from 10 users to 100 users, and then to figure out the fastest way to go from 100 users to 200 users, right? And so like at some point the scales kind of change, but it sounds like you have something that's already validated for you, right? Both in terms of the product that's working, and then you also have this reach out strategy that worked for you like in the past. So what I would do is I would send out the exact same message that's already been working of, hey, I'm working on building this tool, I was hoping, to get like your advice, and essentially having that exact same call. And the only difference is that now your tool is further along and you have like an MVP. So you don't have to change your template at all and be like, I'm trying to sell you this tool, right? Go with what you're comfortable with and just go, I just want to talk to you. I just want to get some advice because I'm working on this thing, and see how many more of like those conversations that you can have. And it's essentially like hand-to-hand combat, right? Is you're never going to be able to do that to scale to 1,000 users. But right now, you don't need to scale to 1,000 users, right? You need to go from 10 to 20, and then from 20 to 50, and then from 50 to 100. And so I would pretty much do exactly that. The other thing is there's quite a few low-hanging fruit, right? So everyone that you've spoken, or not even spoken with, but everyone that you've already emailed, you can now send them a message going, hey, I'd emailed you a couple of months ago and reached out about this thing that I was working at. I know that you didn't get back to me, totally cool if you were busy, or if you just weren't interested, parentheses, let me know, or whatever. I just wanted to give you a heads up that I have like an MVP out. And not only do I have an MVP, but I have 10 users just like you that are already using the platform. Because what you've done with that initial email sequence is you found the early adopters, you found the people that maybe had this problem and were looking to actually speak with you. But you probably had a bunch of people that maybe they thought what you sent them was really interesting, but they're just not one of those early adopters, that they're just like, yeah, I'm not going to talk to this guy until he actually comes back with something, or until he actually has something to actually sell me, right? So I'm kind of a mix there, right? I'm always willing to talk to new people and to help them out or to give them feedback or whatever, but I also don't want to sign up for tools until they're decently well established, right? That it's very, very rare that I will sign up, to be a beta user of some tool that's being worked on. And the only exception is if it's a builder whose tool that I already use. So our CRM, the guy came to me and was like, I'm working on a metrics platform. Here are the problems that I'm trying to solve with this. And I was like, yeah, I'll pay you $100 a month or $1,200 like for the year up front for you to go and develop that, because I have like a relationship and a track record with them, right? And so I don't know how many people you initially reached out to, but let's say that you've reached out to like 100 people or 200 people to get those initial like 10 users on. Reach out to the remaining 190 and just drop them like a quick update and ask
Yeah.
again if they're interested in jumping on a call.
A friend of mine put me in touch with someone who used to be head of growth for a an online lender, and he has a lot of contacts within the industry. So the great thing is having that pipeline of not warm, but maybe lukewarm.
Lukewarm, yeah.
There'll definitely be some warm intros that he could make, but then outside of that, a lot of it, like he has a large network of me being able to find them. So definitely, I think there's going to be a bigger pool of people I can start to target as well, which would be a little warmer. And I think it could even work out slightly better. And on top of that, like you said, there's an existing product now and there's testimonials, and hopefully the conversion will be higher than what it was before I had a product. Well, I certainly hope that's the case.
Well, just remember, I mean, I think that a lot of people, even people that are experienced, really overrate this, right? So, or overestimate like what like kind of the results are going to be. That you have to remember that if you're like cold emailing and cold calling, if you manage to get 5% of people to even like respond to you, right? Like, I mean, you can probably get higher rates in terms of responses, but if you were to get one out of every 20 people that you reached out to actually sign up for a trial of your tool, you'd be doing like outstanding, right? And a lot of people just think that it's like, oh, like I've built something that's valuable for like this target audience, so of course they're going to sign up. But then it's like it's like if you ask them of, when's the last time that someone just cold emailed you about a tool that they built and you actually went and signed up, right? It doesn't happen like very often. I don't know if you have this, but I have people that I follow that I find like their stuff is really helpful, but I'm just like, no one should be that guy, you know what I mean? And like Grant Cardone is one of those for me, that he talks about that in the 10x rule, which is like a really good book. It's a little bit over the top, right? That it's very much like a Gary V kind of like hustle and grind kind of like thing. But what he says with the 10x rule, and I actually like genuinely think that this is true, and that it would be helpful if a lot of people went in with this mindset, is he says the easiest way to achieve your goals is to take whatever your goal is and then 10x your goal, right? And then figure out the amount of work that you need to do to hit your 10x goal, and then 10x that amount of work. And then set out to go and to do that amount of work. And he's like, if you do that, you'll hit your initial goal, right? And that's something that a lot of people don't realize. Is for me, I mean, I still take phone calls to this day, like for ZenMaid, even though I have a team that does it for me and everything. But when people go like, oh, how did you get to 1,500 customers or whatever? It's like, well, I spoke with 2,000 maid service owners to get us to our first 100, right? At this point, I'm closing in on 7,000 maid service owners that I've spoken with one-on-one over the past 8 years, right? Like everyone's looking for that magic bullet. But if you have something that's valuable and that people are willing to pay for, a lot of people go, oh, if I build this next feature, people are gonna sign up. It's like, no, they're not gonna sign up. Like they need to be sold on the actual platform. They need to be marketed the actual platform. And so that's kind of the advice that I'm giving you here is just, if you're at 10 users and you're trying to get to 20 or to 50, it's really just hustle. It's really just do 10 times as much work as you've done until now, and then at some point you're going to be like, okay, I no longer want to grind this out to go from I don't want to sell 1-to-1 to go from 50 to 100. And that's when things begin to change. But if you have 50 users, now if you start a customer group on Facebook, now there's actually enough people in that group that they begin adding value to themselves, and you begin to get that flywheel effect. And so if you try to build a community too early, it actually will backfire on you because there's just not going to be any activity in there. People ask a question, they're already in lots of other like irrelevant Facebook groups, and people forget that it's like, you know, this isn't the only Facebook group, this isn't the only group that people are in and everything, right? Yeah.
And I think that's a really good reminder in terms of that concept, because I think it's kind of like, I always think about it, right? Like for me, it's working hard is not the issue, but I think it's also, it's kind of like you think you're working hard, but work even harder, and then harder.
Yeah. Or just treat it like a numbers game, right? I think that's the other thing, because you can play the numbers game without actually working all that much harder. That you can pick, you know, a tool like quickmail.io, right, which like sends all the cold emails for you, right? Like that's run by my friend Jeremy. He better give me a commission on that if you use it. But he's got a tool where you can put in, you know, 8 emails, 12 emails, you upload a spreadsheet, and it'll just keep cold emailing them, right? And just send, you know, like a sequence. But the whole thing is that if you want to nail that sequence, the best way to nail that sequence is to actually do the work yourself 100% manually until you find what actually works. And so like, if there's one thing that I see that like absolutely kills a lot of potential businesses, or like particularly in SaaS, is people want to automate before they actually know what works. Right?
Yeah.
So for us, we don't automate anything that's not already working. Like we sometimes will pay our team members hundreds of dollars a month to do something that we could automate, because we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what challenges are going to pop up with like customer uploads, for example, right? That we've done customer uploads for years, and only now that we feel like we actually can catch most of like the cases is like, are we going to actually automate it? Right? Everyone thinks that they have a sniper rifle. Everyone thinks that they're just going to be like, oh, like I want these 10 clients, so like if I do like the exact right thing, then I'm just going to like snipe these guys and they're going to sign up. And it's like that's not the way that it ever works, right? Like if it was, then like the best sales guys on earth would close close to 100% of prospects, and the best sales guys on earth, you know, don't even close like 25 or 30%, right? And so, you know, yeah, so definitely just thinking about it like that way and everything. And then the other thing that I've been kind of thinking about a lot more lately, and I've been meaning to tweet about this. I have like a tweet storm that I'm actually going to be putting out today on like lessons learned getting to like to 100K or whatever. A big thing that'll develop over time, and that if you keep taking lots of shots, is you'll find those partners, you'll find those influencers where you sell one person on your idea and they go out and introduce you to 40 more people, right? But the whole thing is, so many people go, oh, I'm just going to go find like those people that are going to introduce me to everyone else. But the best way to do that is to just take as many shots as you can, treat everyone well, and then like those opportunities begin to come up. And so well, you know, what I've been talking about there is like the way that I think about it is one to many sales. And so it's when you think about it that if you can ever do a webinar demo with someone where if they're sold on the product, if they're sold on what you're working on and your vision, then they go out and they sell it to many people. That's really where like the magic happens. But you can't really like growth hack that. You can in some ways, but it's usually better to just get as much experience, do as many webinars as possible. And like what I was saying, you know, we're 8 years into the business and I still do those things. So like last night I had a call that kicked off at 11 p.m. that was with 3 people that are on like the board of directors of some like cleaning organization. Everyone in their organization, they all work with cleaning agencies, right? Which means that the laws that they have to deal with are slightly different than if you're working with like actual employees. It's like independent contractors versus working with employees. And you know, me, my CTO, and one of our team members who like sold her own maid service and has started her own software in the industry that's like adjacent to ours. So essentially like the 3 of us have like the highest value time in the entire company. And the three
Mm,
of us sat on that call with them because we realized that if we get these three people on board with us, they're going to go out and like that might be the equivalent of 50 or 100 customers for us. And of course, that's not going to happen overnight. But what we do is it's taking lots of shots. Anytime I identify anyone in the industry that I'm like, you might be able to sell this to 5 or 10 people over the next like couple of years, I will always go out of my way to help them, to ask for their feedback. Very much the same thing that you were just saying is yesterday, like what we did, which kind of funny because of like, the difference in sort of where we are like on the path. But I mean,
yeah,
the call that I did yesterday, we didn't demo the software. We didn't talk to them about why they should use ZenMaid. All that we did is we said, hey, we're working on this new feature that's specifically for working with contractors. We have 3 mock-ups. We have 3 screenshots that we just want to show you. And all that we want out of this call is we just want to know like what we don't know that we don't know. Like, what are we missing here? What would stop you guys from using this feature? What are you seeing that we've missed here? What would make this like perfect? Right. And we spent almost an hour and a half just talking to them. Like when that feature comes out, even if they decide that they're happy with their own software, they don't get that sort of treatment from their current software. So someone else asks them, what software do you recommend? They might go, oh, I use this competitor, but you've got to check out ZenMaid.
yeah, yeah, you're right. And I think it's like these, I always view it as the like concept of planting these seeds. You plant them, they're growing below the soil and you have no idea. And when they start shooting, it's like they'll start coming out at a rate that you don't expect. So you're 100% right. Taking those shots, similar analogy, the way I view it, I'm like, Farzan, just keep going, just keep planting
Yeah,
these seeds because I've seen
exactly.
it in other areas of life and I can see it happening here. But you just got to be
Yeah,
patient and you've got to keep
yeah.
planting.
Yeah, yeah. And then the other thing, and I talk about this a lot, is just like expected value, that you're making an expected value play. And so the whole thing is that it's the same thing with like the sniper like analogy or with the plants that you were just saying is like if you plant one seed, you can do everything within your power to make that single seed grow into the biggest possible tree. Or you can
Yeah,
plant hundreds of seeds, try to treat them all the best that you can, and then figure out later which ones have like the most potential and where to double down your efforts in, which ones to starve of water or which ones, to keep watering or
yeah,
like, or whatever, right?
yeah,
And so that's like a really big thing as well, because the one thing is when I do talk to people about that is they think like, okay, if I do this, then like I'm going to sell this one person and they're going to go out and they're going to sell 10 more people. And it's like, no, that's not the way that it works. It's you go out and you sell 10 people that have the potential to sell 10 more people, and one of those 10 is going to sell 100, right?
yeah,
And then like another one might sell like 20, and the other 8 are going to be a complete waste of time. But the problem
yes.
is you don't know which 8 are the waste of time until you go through like all 10,
Yeah.
right?
It's like
So
investment.
yeah, it's like the whole thing of like 50% of all marketing dollars are wasted. The problem is you don't know which 50% until you spend the dollar, right? It's like
Yeah.
I love that quote, like
Just keen to hear from yourself. Like, how did you get to your first 10? And then from your first 10, how did you get to your first, to the, your 20 and 50 and 100?
yeah, you push so hard in the beginning, to get those first couple of customers, and you do all this work to get like $100 a month or $200 a month. But then with SaaS, the further that you go, the easier it gets because there's just a very low cost of adding on customers, right? So once you figure out the systems and like all that stuff, it really begins to compound, and that's what ZenMaid's seeing, right? Like we literally grew last month. We grew in a single month more in MRR than we managed to pick up in our first 2.5 years in business. Like one
Mm,
one month, we grew more than like that, right? Like which
mm,
honestly is probably more reflective of like our first 2.5 years more than it is of last month. But even then, but yeah, okay. So in a nutshell, we did cold emailing and cold calling. It essentially took us from 0 to like 20 to 25, and then right around 20 to 25, because we were just taking a lot of shots, we were trying to join different Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups, and we joined a LinkedIn group, and the lady that ran the LinkedIn group just randomly just picked up the phone and gave us a call, or gave me a call, and she was like, hey, like, I see that like the CTO of ZenMade just joined my group. I was wondering if I could learn like a little bit more about that. And so it turns out that she's one of like the oldest like influencers in the space, and she was not happy with the software provider that she'd been recommending. She just didn't feel like he really took it seriously. Like I don't think that he ever like thanked her when she would ever like refer people and stuff. Never really involved her in the process, like any of that stuff. And so one big thing here, and I talk about it on the podcast, is that I did tech sales previously. So like I was playing to my own strengths by doing cold emailing and cold calling, and that definitely like helps a lot. So essentially with that, we realized that we had an opportunity with her, and so we essentially showed her the software, and she was like, this is really cool, but like these work orders don't match up with the information that I need, like my cleaners like to see or whatever. And my CTO pulled an all-nighter to make those templates customizable, and then we customized the templates to exactly what she had said that she wanted her cleaners to be able to see. And then we went back to her, and we're like, hey, like, check it out. Like, this is like what we like had in mind. These are the work orders that we can automatically generate. And like, you can see this is a blank work order, but we can fill out all of this information for you like automatically. And she was completely blown away. And so then from that, what's funny is I don't even know how many customers that really helped us get. That got me like my first speaking gig in the industry at like a very small event. But essentially from there, we just continued to take a lot of shots and to do cold email and cold calling. And so those two combined things took us up to about 100 customers. And then around 100 customers was when we began to branch out a little bit more. At some point during that time, I begun publishing like some content. We realized that one piece of content in particular people were very, very interested in. So we hid that piece of content behind like an email wall. So we began to actually collect email addresses, and then I started getting into email marketing and all of that stuff. And we did do paid advertising. That's another one. So we did paid advertising from day one, but very small. That we started out with a $100 a month budget with Google AdWords, which was enough for maybe 1 or 2 clicks a day at the absolute like most. But we just wanted to have some consistency there, right? We just wanted like 30 to 50 actual potential customers to visit our site like clockwork, so that we could just kind of see like, okay, if we make this change, does it make any difference, right? Even though it's not statistically significant, that we just wanted that. We just didn't want to be doing all of this work and just have no one seeing, what we were actually like doing. And then over time, we built that up. So sometime around like 100 customers is when like the content began to kick in and all of that stuff. That's also when word of mouth began to kick in. But I mean, it was a very, very long and slow process. And so it kind of developed like over time. Around there, my memory kind of gets hazy because like I've told that story of the first 100 customers like so many times. But after that, I mean, like we just do everything, right? That I'm like a marketing first founder. I did sales previously, but the big reason I started ZenMade was because I realized that I enjoyed marketing a lot more, and no one would give me a chance in my career. That I kept applying to marketing jobs. I even tried to move internally at my company, and they were like, we can't move you off the sales team, like Danny will kill us. And like I let them know, I was like, hey, like I'm trying to find like a marketing job. Like I enjoy it a lot more than sales. So like, like I'm happy to stay. Like I love you guys, I love the company, but you have to realize that like long term, I'm not looking at sales. And so then they became aware that it was, it was either they moved me to marketing or they were going to lose me, and they still refused to move me. And that like pushed me to actually like leave the company and focus full time on ZenMade more. That at some point I was just like, I'd rather be marketing and selling my own product and be making less money. And then you'll hear in that podcast episode that that's when I up and left for Thailand.
Right. And how many users did you have before you quit the job? roughly?
I don't remember customer wise, but I remember that we were only at maybe $6,000 a month in MRR when I stepped away from the full time job, and I think like a lot of people, they hear that and they think like, oh, you're at $6,000 a month. So that means that you're making $6,000 a month, or you're making like half of that or whatever. We didn't pay ourselves at all in the first 2 years. That everything that we made went right back into the business, or like into the account. That's what we used to keep like increasing like our ad spend, because we were trying to get up to that like $1,000 a month like Google ad spend, to just have like actually consistent traffic coming in. But let's see, it was $6,000 or $8,000. I know it was $8,000 when I left for Thailand, but when we were making $8,000, that's when I began paying myself, and I was paying myself $1,000 a month. So we were very, very focused on like, put money back into the business, continue growing it, and like I was saying, get that flywheel moving.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's really, and I think one of the challenges I have, and I need to sort of like think about how I go about this, is my wife's just gone on maternity leave, for a year, and so we've got
Yeah.
the mortgage. So I can't quit and just work full time on this, and I really, really want to. And I don't feel
Yeah.
like raising funds now is the right time either. I think there's so much like untapped value before I, take on any investment. And ideally, I would like not to, right? Like just being sort of like in control a little bit more than what things would be like if, I don't know. I'm open to it. Don't get me wrong. I'm definitely open to it, but it's just, I feel like there's a lot more that I could do before I take that step.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And
uh,
I think it's more about validation, right? Like I think that it's more about getting a little bit further along, because for us it was more that we knew that if the business was doing like $8,000 a month, but neither of us was full time on it, we were just looking at that and going, if we were full time on this, now we're actually in a position where like we can go full time, and we can take it from 8,000 to like to whatever. And so of course it depends on your financial situation. It depends on like your risk tolerance, right? And like
yeah,
and all of that stuff. But yeah, focus less on your MRR and more on validation, because if you get to the point where you're like, okay, if I quit and go full time on this, I can get it to that point. That's really the confidence that you're looking for. It's not really as much about the MRR.
yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it. It kind of takes the anxiety away from it as well. It's sort of like, I have to
Yeah.
hit this dollar figure. It's kind of like, well, now I know that I can. I'm confident that if I was to spend, 4 times the amount of time that I put on this, I can get it to the next stage.
Yeah.
Well, that's
And
really good.
the other thing is just, I mean, we keep talking about like these kind of numbers of like, 10, 50, 100, 500, 1,000, or whatever. But one thing that I very, very much believe with SaaS is like, if you can get to 10 customers, you can get to 50 customers. And if you can get to 50 customers, you can get to 100. And if you can get to 100, you can get like to 1,000, right? And it's going to top out way above that in most industries, right? Like now, I think that ZenMaid can get to 10,000 customers. And honestly, when we get to 10,000 customers, I'll probably believe at that point that we can get to, like 20 or 30. Like 100,000 is where it's like, that sounds like we've got to be just like absolutely dominant in the industry. But I do think that we can get like to 10,000. And so that's really like the thing here, right? Is you figured out how to get to 10. Now it's just do more work to go from 10 to 20 or 20 to 50 or whatever. But it's, if you go, okay, 200 customers is where like, I'm like financially free, I can spend time like on what I want, or really double down on this or whatever. When you get to that 100 customer mark, then it's like, okay, I know that I can go from 100 customers to 200 customers because there's enough people out there. It's just taking enough time and putting in enough hustle to go from 100 to 200. And so then at that point, the decision is, do I want to play it safe, play it patient, and wait, while working my full-time job and let it go like on its own? Or do I want to accelerate that process, right? And go full time and go from 100 to 200 like faster.
That's a really good point. And what is your view? What was it like for ZenMaid when you started in terms of the competitive landscape?
Okay, so in hindsight, there were already quite a few competitors, but to my knowledge, there were only two competitors that were ultra specific to Made services. Those there were
Okay.
only two. There was Made Books and there was Made Easy software, and both of them were pretty darn crappy, right? That Made
Mm.
Easy software, it wasn't really any fault of their own. It's just that they'd been doing it for so long that their initial software was a full desktop version, and then they were trying to move online, but they never treated it like a company. And so it was like a husband-wife team where the dude wasn't and still isn't like a web developer, right? But he was trying to compete with like web development. And then Made Books was actually made by a guy that I met at some point, and he was a very solid developer that a lot of my entrepreneur friends have actually hired him to do dev products. And
Yeah.
he essentially put up a very basic, like, Made software uh, in like maybe a 2 month period, and then just never touched it again. Like pretty much provided no support. Like I tried to buy it actually like a couple of weeks ago. I tried to like to buy him out, but apparently he'd already sold it. But I mean, we're
Mm.
we're now like 100 times bigger than they are, right? So like, it shows that we treated it like a company. He didn't, and nothing wrong with that, right? He had lots of other projects. He makes way more money than I do with like with other things and everything. So like no harm, no foul there. But then the main thing there was that the other competition that we had, they had much better software, and that was something that was very disheartening in the beginning, but they didn't cater specifically to Made services. And so that's where we, like, even now we compete with one company that's valued at over $100 million, and we compete with another one that's got a lot of Silicon Valley funding, but both of them are trying to take over
A lot
like
of different
the
services.
entire local service. Yeah, they're trying to be like the juggernaut of like the local services business, which is great for investors, but it's not great for our customers. So our customers will always prefer to at least try us. If they end up going with them, that's fine. But almost everyone would prefer to have a solution that's built specifically for their industry. So they'd rather evaluate us first, and then they'll go take a look at them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. That's a good point. And that's the thing. A good friend of mine, a mentor, he always says, and he was the one that actually suggested, I give this a crack. He said,
Mhm.
don't be afraid of competition. He said, competition is your best friend because it's validated the market for you. So,
That that's
uh,
that's great. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
one
So I
hundred
think,
percent.
yeah, and that's why I'm always interested in, others like yourself who you've gone, down a particular, industry vertical, and seeing how you view competition. Like if I look at, for example, myself right now, obviously I'm just focusing on Australia right now. It's more within reach. There's nothing about the product that would limit it to be used in any other country. But for
Yeah.
the time being, that's where I'm at. If I look at the competition, there is like there's two, a company in New Zealand, a company in Australia. The company in Australia doesn't have a great rap in terms of the quality. New Zealand, they're
Mhm.
doing all right. They're kind of like catering to a lot of different areas, but I would say the heaviest focus does seem to be the mortgage brokerage space as well. And then
Yeah.
there are others who are sort of like they're everything from mortgage broker all the way to like submitting
Yeah.
to like the banks and aggregators and all that sort of stuff and a ton of things. But then they try to do too many things. I've got users who actually have access to that platform, but they still choose
Yeah.
to use me because we do the
Yeah.
document collection piece well.
Well,
So
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
um,
And double down on that, you may end up expanding and beginning to sort of like compete with those guys for more features and stuff like that. But doing one thing that's very valuable very, very well is how you get it off the ground. So yes, there's two quick things. There is um one thing is just on your website. I would really call out mortgage brokers more. I would just be like, we make
mm,
mortgage brokers look absolutely amazing, or look amazing to their clients, right?
yeah,
Learn how Kaddim like removes friction for all document collection for mortgage brokers, right? Because I took a look at it, and the very first thing that jumped out to me was that, other than the screenshot where it says the person's like a mortgage broker, your headline and your subheadline don't actually call out mortgage brokers specifically. And that's
mm,
something that like, the other thing is, keep in mind that you can go wider in the future. You just have to change a couple of words on there, right? So
that's a
yeah,
good
so
point.
you have, yeah, you have that, and then Okay, two other things that I'd wanted to mention. I got to get going in a sec, but the two other things that
But
I'd wanted to mention just before I forget is, so yeah, in terms of competition, you're not playing in a winner take all market. It's not Silicon Valley. It's not like Uber where like the person with the highest like with like the most cars on the road is going to win all the business like in the long run. And so in that sense, everyone can win. You're just getting your piece of the pie. Like we compete with venture funded like companies, but the whole thing is that like, I own 40% of this business, and then my CTO and my initial co-founder own like the remaining like 60%. So the three of us can be happy with a business that's 1/100th of the size of our competitors. If we make $5 million a year, that's not even a drop in the bucket for them. But for us, that's all that we need to like to
yeah,
live comfortably. And you're in exactly the same like situation that you don't have to be better than these guys for every single person. You only have to be better than them for a very, very small percentage. You mentioned that people keep saying that they don't have the templates set up and that you're going in and setting up the templates for them, right? So the whole thing is keep doing that. But one of the very next things that you should be doing is adding in default templates so that someone that signs up automatically gets templates that then they can go in and edit. And so for ZenMaid, one of the reasons that we impress the shit out of maid service owners when they come in is that they sign up and we immediately have like 6 or 7 automated emails. Well, they don't have to type in what those emails are. We tell them up front is like, hey, we have emails that are pre-populated, text messages that are pre-populated that we know work from working with thousands of other like maid service owners like over the years. If you want, you can customize any of these. You can make them your own. But if you don't want to, they just work. And so we get people that sign up that are coming over from like Google Calendar or pen and paper, and they don't send on the way text. They don't send reminder emails, but they know that they should be. And so to remove that thought where they just plug in, they click a button, and boom, they're done. You're beginning to see more and more like information of like, okay, like here are 3 situations that mortgage brokers commonly run into, and here are the documents that are needed for those 3 specific situations. So we've pre-populated these for you. Just click which one you need, and then in addition to that, you can customize or edit these to really like make them your own, right?
yes.
But that's another one where if you over automate that too early, then you don't actually have the information that you need to like actually nail that right out of the gate.
Yeah, you're spot on. That's actually on my to-do list. And what I was thinking is one of my users, she's maybe I think 4 people have copied her templates. I think I'm thinking of reaching out to her and say, hey, do you mind if I take your template, make it a little bit generic, share it with everyone, and I'll give you, I don't know, a month or 2 like free on the platform. And she's very, very helpful. I think that's one way I could
Yeah.
sort of like just accelerate that. But
Yeah,
great,
exactly. Yeah.
right. That's probably one of the most valuable things I can give my users and future users.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving forward.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's little things that you can do like that where if you put it in, then someone that signs up will get a better business. And that's something that I like about ZenMaid, because we have people that sign up for our trial, they don't end up using the software, but they come away with a better business just because they signed up for us, because they see how we do things, they see some of our templates and stuff. The other thing to just keep in mind, this is just like, it just depends on how you want to go about doing it, because I was very much like in that sort of headspace in the beginning of like asking the customers, can I use like this template or whatever? Just remember that like they stole that template from someone. It was inspired by someone else. Like no one owns like those templates. So like the other thing that you can do, because like the whole thing is like, what if you do that and she comes back and says, no, you can't use that? Like you're going to do it anyways, right? So like, so the whole thing is you could just implement it and then just go, hey, like a bunch of people have been using your templates. I learned a ton from you. I was just giving you a heads up that like I implemented this so that we have this basic thing that we've put in that's generic, but like it's 100% inspired by you. Can I offer you like 2 months for free? Because I really appreciate like you helping out. And so it's the kind of the whole thing of like ask for forgiveness and not for like for permission. Yeah,
That's a
so
good
just
call.
something to think about there. Yeah, because yeah, if she comes back and says like, no, you can't do that, you're just going to use someone else's template, and then like over time the templates converge, and you know, we had one of the very first guys that we spoke with on the phone that was like talking to us about like, you know, what he wanted to see in a scheduling software or whatever. We sent him over like the working prototype, and he was literally like the second person to ever log into the system, and we immediately got back like an all caps like livid email that we'd like stolen his idea and stuff, and we were just like, what did you think that we were talking to you about? Like, why did you think that we were like talking to you about like this thing like to begin with? So you know, you're never going to be able to make like everyone happy, so just think about
Yeah,
how you can make future users happy, right? And
sure.
yeah.
Sounds good. That's great advice. Amar, this has been really, really incredible. And I'm really grateful that you jumped on this call with me and shared your insights. I find it's these sort of things are really, really helpful. One, just in terms of just reorienting the way you think, but two, also just kind of keeping you on track. It's kind of like just keep
Yeah.
going, you know. Look, I'm going to let you go. I know you said you've got to get going. One thing I'd love to do is maybe once I hit like say the 25, 30 user mark, jump on another
Yep.
call with you, share with
Yep.
you where I am and get your perspective again if you're happy to do that.
Yeah. Just drop me a DM on Twitter. Keep me up to date with how things are going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of people like that. Another thing that you mentioned at the beginning is just like reaching out to like to more people and stuff. So I started doing that like a bit ago, where I'll just throw up my calendar link every now and again. That particularly when things are slow at ZenMate, is I'll just go like, yeah, anyone that wants to jump on my calendar. And I've connected with some really like amazing people. I actually met a couple of them that I connected with through those calls. I met them when I was in Bangkok recently, and like literally like would not have connected with them if we hadn't like chatted on Zoom after connecting like on Twitter. So I definitely recommend you do that with like with other people and stuff. And yeah, if there's just like one like I guess like favor that I could just could ask is I guess two things is like, one, if you did learn, if you got like a couple of takeaways, if you did want to like tweet about that and tag me, I'll obviously retweet it for
I
like
was,
for my audience.
I was planning on doing that already.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's always good, and then I find that then more people are interested in chatting, and then I meet like more like cool people. And then the other thing is I should have asked this at the beginning, but it's not like a big deal if it's not okay. But sometimes when these calls go really well, like I think this call has been really good, and I think there's been a lot of like good things that we've like talked about. Would it be okay if I publish this on my YouTube channel? Typically it's seen by like 7 people, but I'd pretty much just like publish it with a minor bit of like of editing and stuff. I can edit out anything that you want, and then I just like tweet about it, and like 6 people watch.
Absolutely. No, I'm more than happy. And I was actually going to ask you if you could share the recording for this with
Yeah.
me, but if you can put it on YouTube, send me the link and
Okay.
I'll watch it there. Yeah, not
Okay.
a problem at all. One of the things I've wanted to do a bit
Yeah.
more was be a bit more public about my journey. I've been a
Yeah.
little bit more, to be honest with you, I've been a bit, it's a new sort of like experience for me. But I am keen, so I'm going to be making more of an effort to talk more publicly. So this is a great way of me getting a start on that.
Yeah, that's definitely one regret that I have. That's like what I'm about to be tweeting about in a little like tweet storm or whatever, is like write or like share the journey and stuff, because it really does help that like I've started sharing a lot more just in the past year. I didn't use Twitter until about a year ago, and like just the amount of feedback and just quality stuff that I get from there just because I share a bit more about like my challenges and stuff like that. It's been amazing. So yeah, I definitely recommend you do the same.
Fantastic, we'll do, and we'll stay in touch via Twitter, and I'll reach out once I hit a milestone, and when you do have the time, I'd love to one, celebrate with you, and two, just chat through the next milestone.
Yeah, awesome, cool, man. Well, yeah, thanks for jumping on and for scheduling and everything, and yeah, looking forward to hearing from you. Hopefully next week with 25 users. I think it'll take longer than that, but I hope to hear from you soon.
Definitely. Thanks, Amar.
All right, cool. See ya.
Bye-bye.